So yeah, let's get started. We'll play around. Not too many colors here. Alright, actually all we need here today, you've seen in the PDF, medium gray, black and white, and a little daffodil. That's it. And you guys are going to be so surprised when you see how I do this background. It's like so super easy. Like I said, I did create this for all ages. I have paint parties here at the studio for 8-year-olds and up, guys. So, you know, some of this might be a little challenging for some of them, but, you know, definitely some of them are doing really great at it. And to get started, we need our Donna Dewberry sponges. And you can do this on 11 by 14, 12 by 16. You can make this 16 by 20 if you really wanted to. I'm telling you, it's just totally up to you. I gave you guys little patterns though, right? And you can see this is middle one here is the one I used for that fit perfectly in there, right? And he was looking this way, and then I thought, well, maybe if you want to do him on the other side, I flipped him around so there's right and left depending on which way you want him to look. And then this guy is looking a little bit more sideways, but he takes up more room. So, you know, I did only have a little bit of space left, and I thought this one definitely fits perfect. But I thought, oh, well, it'll be just some fun, because some of the kids were putting little rabbits and squirrels in the corner here and there too. So if you want to add another little critter in there, or then I thought, well, I'll throw a bear in there for you too. So if you want to put a bear, I'm from northern Canada, right? So we have maybe different animals than down in south in Florida and different parts of the world. So yeah, we have a lot of deer up here, moose, and so like I said, you can leave an animal out if you don't want to put them there. You can, like I said, make up your own animal if you really wanted to. But yeah, mostly, like I said, it's going to be just gray and white, but then just a little bit of black there to help. And then definitely we're going to use black for the trees. All right, so this part is really important. Hopefully you don't have your paint out yet, because what I want you guys to see is how I'm going to load my sponge so that we're able to get this background done in a certain little way. Okay, so depending on if you're right-handed or left-handed, it won't really matter, right? So right-handed, usually I work this way. Left-handed, I know I have one in the group, so I always have to consider her. So you may be comfortable to load your plate in this way, okay? So what you want to do is make sure you put your black up at the top, and then slowly get lighter as you work around your clock, okay? So you're going to come down with your gray and your yellow. Just pop that in there just a little bit. You don't need much yellow at all, guys. Alright, just enough to dirty your sponge probably once, and that's all you really need. And then some white. Okay, and then if we need a little bit of movement or, you know, a little bit of fluid, then we'll use some floating medium. Alright, so with this one here, we're definitely going to dampen our sponge. Okay, so you don't need a lot of water on your sponge before you start. Sometimes it's good just to dip your hands into the water and then just trinkle a little bit on there, right on the edge where you need it. Right, so that it's not too wet. Right, because what I find too lately is if you dampen the whole sponge, it tends to just allow the paint to go in deeper and never gets back onto your canvas, right? So how you're going to load your sponge is, you know, sometimes you think it's, you know, how hard can loading sponge be? But believe me, after a bunch of 8-year-olds get in here, start playing with sponges, I can actually wring the sponge out with how much paint is inside of it. So this is where I've been becoming a little bit more aware of how I'm loading it too, because even myself, I didn't realize, and I'm always pushing, giving myself a good workout. And it's just because I pushed the paint too far deep into the sponge instead of actually using it. And so I want to do a lot more fun and easy ones and deceiving ones. Like this one looks hard, but it's definitely a lot easier. So you're going to start off with just putting your plate from dark to lightest, from your black, your gray, your yellow, and then some white in this order. So then that way when we load up our sponge, we're going to have the dark color up at the top, and then the bottom color down here, right? So don't touch that gray yet. Sorry. Actually, I want to go and grab a different sponge now because I messed up. So the first thing I want you guys to do is pick up yellow and white, right? But what I'm trying to get to you guys to give you a little heads up is that the dark will be at the top and then the white will be at the bottom, right? So if you're left-handed, you're going to put the colors maybe on the other side of the plate. Maybe it'll be a little bit more comfortable for you, but it doesn't really matter. Like I said, as long as you have the dark at the top and gray and then yellow and then your white. So that way you can stay consistent on your colors. Alright, so like I said, it's really super, super easy, this project. 8-year-olds and up can do it. And when you're loading your color, guys, make sure you're just kind of softly picking it up on the outside of your sponge. You don't have to actually push very hard because it's just going to shove all your paint all inside of it. And then you're going to have to push even harder to get it onto your canvas, right? To get it out of your sponge. So if it's on the outside, you should be able to just lay it on very, very lightly and get great coverage, right? Eventually you may have to do some pushing, but definitely you shouldn't have to push too hard. Get some hard bits in there. Okay, so the first part we're going to start off with is we're going to get this glow in here. So you can see it's about 1/3 up, so there's about your halfway point. Right? Figure out about where your half point part is into your canvas, and then just above it, this is where you're going to start creating this circle here. Okay, and then as soon as you have like a nice size circle going on here, right, dab off your sponge a little bit to get rid of some of that yellow. Then I only want to pick up white only. Okay, so I want to add some white all around the edges, right? Get a little bit of a glow going on there. A little bit of white around with that yellow, right? Just slowly, we're going to keep doing our circles. Right, going on their way out. So it's almost the same color as the canvas, right? But a little bit white, a little bit yellow. Okay, so then where the yellow is, this is where you're going to go and pick up this gray. Okay, so you can blend that in a little bit more. Okay, got a hair in here somewhere. Okay, so now that we're around this rim of yellow, we don't want to go back over this area again with the gray because then it'll dirty it. So where you are in the white, we're going to start introducing some gray. Okay, a little bit of a happy sunshine movement. You're going around in a little bit of a circle. Pick up some more white and gray as you need it. And this is where you have to have a little bit more room on your table that you might have to spin some stuff. So what you're going to do is you're just going to keep spinning your canvas in a big circle. Okay, keep spinning. Keep spinning, and it can be just very streaky a little bit on the way out. Right, you're slowly gonna keep adding white and gray and coming out a little bit darker and darker as you move out into your circle. Just keep spinning. Keep spinning. Okay, so you see I almost have just basically the corners left here. Right? How you guys doing with your... I mean, super quick, right? Now, just to get it a little bit darker, we're just going to pinch just that little bit of black and mix it into the gray. Pick up some more white. And then slowly get some darkness, some black, right around the edges. Alright, so you're going right around on the outside, getting a little bit darker, a little bit darker. Right, so we haven't touched the bottom parts yet. Right, keep some of those streaks in there, because that's what helps give it a little bit more dreamy look. Right. I swear you can probably do this, you know, less than an hour, really. It's a super, super quick and easy kind of project. Okay, so again, just keeps flipping my canvas around. This is why I want the dark on the top part, so then that way I always can continually come out, right? Grab a little bit more paint. So I didn't even really need any floating medium, but just keep adding more paint is the trick, right? Because if you add too much floating medium, sometimes it'll definitely be a little more translucent, and you may feel like you have to start all over, and then you'll have to get a brand new sponge again, right? Because once we have these gray colors in here, black, then you'll never get that nice clean yellow again. Okay, so we don't have to worry too much. Like I said, you want it to be a little bit darker on the outside, and gradually coming in. Okay, and then we still have our whole area here because our circle is focused to be on the top part. Alright, so this is just our dreamy background land. You can see right beside mine, I've got a good hand's worth of landscape here at the very bottom. Okay, and then on top of it is your scruffy work. So right across the bottom, guys, what you can do is bring this black down just a little bit more. Right. Put that in there. I go clockwise is probably better. And keep playing with it. Keep adding some more depth in there if you want. Right, I just want it to all flow with the same color around it, depending how dark you have it. Alright, there we go. Brought down just a little bit lower. Right, so then my one hand coverage in the corners there. So right about there is where I'm going to take my sponge and push right down on it and streak sideways to give it that landscape look. Okay. And then again, just adding streaks all the way across sideways. Okay. Pretty easy, right? And that's it. That's your start. Okay, so probably right in here, like maybe in the middle kind of, you know, you might see a little bit more, you know, the sky. But by the time we get all those trees on there, you're only going to see little bits of this. Okay, so if you did come down a little bit low like I did here, that I don't like, we can definitely, if you have another sponge, this Donna has tuner sets, which is handy sometimes. Alright, we'll have to just go grab a little bit of yellow, a little bit of white. And put some more streaks of white in there. Alright, with your yellow. Get that fixed in there and then slowly streak into your white. Okay, so you want that little bit of a white band in there before you get into the grays. Try not to touch that yellow. That's probably the hardest trick in here, is keeping that yellow clean. But you can see by the time you're done, you won't see any particular little area. Okay, so try not to drive yourself too crazy. And then pop your sponges into your water until you can get to the sink to clean them. What do you think? Pretty easy so far, right? Give me a thumbs up if you think you got it figured out there. You know, if you wanted to double load your brush, you could always, you know, maybe go in that way and soften things with a little bit more white if you wanted to, with some floating medium. But I was trying not to get the kids to get too precise, right? So hopefully you can get that white band in there, a little bit of floating medium, just to kind of clean up this band outside the yellow, maybe like I have here a bit. Down here is good, it's just the top part. So once it's dry, you can maybe layer a little bit more of a swirl of white glow. Okay, dirty yellow, white. And touch up that way maybe too, if you're afraid to get into your sponges, they're dirty. Do it with the brush. And then slowly, once you're happy with that glow, like I said, I always add a lot more white before I start adding the gray. So then that way it's a little cleaner transition. All right, nice white glow. If you want to do it with the brush. And then slowly just start adding, just, you know, change colors as you go. Adding a little bit more black. But the whole trick was trying to do it with the sponge to get it done quick. And, you know, again, having a little game to spin your canvas around and get it done quicker. But, you know, there's always ways of tweaking things up and making things look even better. Right, so we're just around the top and the sides maybe, but you know, again, it's all about playing. You want to play. But you'll see how much when you start adding the trees that a lot of the little parts that you don't like start to disappear. Right, this way you can wipe your brush down and add more white if you really wanted to, but I'm trying not to give you guys lots of work here. I want this to be really fun and easy. Hopefully you'll be able to get it down. Right, so you see how I'm just playing around with my brushes now. I've got way too much black on there now. Right, so if you do feel that, you can always grab a rag, maybe wipe some of it off. Dull it down. But I don't want it to be too black. Right, you want it to be a little bit smoky, charcoaly, right? So then when you start to put your black tones in there, then they're going to pop up, right? So, and if this is too dark, then your trees won't stand out. Right, so you see how I put it in there, I wipe some of it off. Maybe pick up some more white, soften it. Try to give you guys a little bit more scenarios here if you get yourself in trouble, I guess. Okay, so you see how I kind of soften that out again. Slowly adding a little bit more gray. Just a smidgen of black. Dirty charcoal-y. Okay, so you see I made a little bit of a mess. That's okay. We're going to go over this part here again anyways. Alright, so if you have a large scruffy and a size 12 brush or 16, whatever you like, you might want to use your liner brush if you want to get a little bit smaller, but I pretty much did this all with the chisel, guys. As long as you have a nice chisel on your brush, that's all that really matters. So what we have to do is start building in some of these background trees first. Okay, and they're just done really small and loose. So then we're going to start putting some of these trees in the back, and you want them to be very close to the color of the black. So you want to actually put a little bit of white into some gray. You don't have to multi-load this at all. You can just go ahead and create a couple of different colors of gray. test a small little piece and see how, how does that look. Like you almost want it to disappear. So maybe it's not light enough for these ones. Right, so come over closer to your white. Try to make a little bit of a smaller, lighter kind of color. Right. You want this to really disappear, and in fact, if to make it a little bit more translucent, right? You want these ones to disappear. Right, so you're just kind of randomly putting a bunch of trees. Some of this will be covered, some of it will be seen. You can see by the step outs what I did in the second step out. Right, so there were some really small ones. Right, so just like the little grassy strokes. And then these ones look a little bit thicker, like you got some bigger trees back here. Right, so see how you're in the mid-tones of the gray here? Right, so if you do need to add just a little tiny bit of color, just enough for it to show very, very slightly. But it should almost disappear. Like I said, a little bit translucent with some floating medium in there too is fine. I had one tree come off the side a little bit more. Right, so if it's too white, you want to add a little bit more darker gray. Right, because you want it to be almost tone on tone. Right, a little bit one over here. Just skinny little trees, not a lot of detail. Just kind of just some going off into the sun a little bit. Right, get some taller ones and some shorter ones. This one I brought a little bit higher. A few more just random sticks of, really nothing of these guys. Okay, just a few of them that you might want to see a little bit of thickness at the base. So you're going to start off a little bit more sideways and then slowly turn your chisel to go up. Alright, so if you can't see it, then you just got to adjust your gray to just a very slight off color. Right, so every tree usually has a bit of a wide look to it, right? So you're always going to be making a branch and then looking for a place to put a Y. Right? And then usually where the Y is, if you look at the length of a branch, it's usually 1/3 and 2/3. Right? So this is a good place to put it, not like right in half. So you want it to look like a Y, where usually there's a little longer branch, or like I said, a shorter one at the third point. Right? Again, brick layers it up. Right, so this is a good place to practice a little bit with these because you can hardly really see them. They're going to disappear at the end. I probably have this even a little bit too much coverage. Right, really translucent, washy color. And you can even add a few more, like if you feel like you have too much coverage, try to add a few more that are really washed out, like really translucent. Right. So we're going to be adding more to those. How'd you make out with those chisels? Oh dear. Okay, so we need to get our scruffy brush out next. Once we have all those established, and what we want to start building is this foreground. Okay. So it doesn't matter how these look to start because we can easily hide them. Right. How you guys doing with your back trees? You need more time? Yeah, don't be afraid to put more medium in there and get some looking really almost like they're disappeared, translucent in between those, Cecilia. Add more. Because we only have like maybe 4 main trees that are going to come in front. So that's where these are going to peekaboo. Or 5, one off the side. These will all just peekaboo around them. On my original, I didn't even put leaves on these. I just thought I'd make it super, super easy, like a really wintry scene with no leaves. So now it could look like a fall scene or any time of year, really, depending on the leaves. And then while you guys are catching up, actually I forgot my Q-tips. Yeah, so I've got about what, 6, 8, 9 of them in here. So I just put a bunch, right? And tied them together with a elastic band. Right, so if you guys haven't seen this trick before, I just want to give you a little bit of heads up. I already used this side, so I didn't throw them out because now I can use the other side, but they are kind of stuck together. Ooh! I could have separated them a bit more. Oh, they dried, stuck together. Because obviously I didn't put these in water. That's okay. Right, because we have 2 sides to play with, so you can play with this side, let it dry, and then use this side. And what I wanted them to be apart from is because when you put the elastic down a little bit lower, you'll see how they spread out a little bit more. Right? They start to come out. So you don't want them super, super, super tight, right? Because then you're not going to get a nice airy kind of effect with them. So you definitely want it to be down in the 2/3 area. That's the happy medium for a lot of measurements. 1/3 and 2/3 is just nature's way of dividing things a lot, you'll see. Right, so it's going to be a little bit more spread out. Alright, so you guys are caught up a little bit more. Alright, so now we want to come in and grab some gray and a little bit of white in a clean area to work in your scruffy. Alright, so you got about half and half going on. And if you're afraid to see what it's going to look like I said, it's not a big deal. You can always copy things, go over things a little bit. Right, so you want to bring some of this, right, a little bit of poofiness. Doesn't have to be very light. In fact, it should be mostly a little bit dark back here. Right, so just a little bit of a soft fuzziness going on right along this line here that you made. Right, and then we're going to put another tree through it so it looks like it's behind it. Right, and then again, just kind of scattered, a little bit low, a little bit high. Right, just enough to get a little bit of color going on here. And then as we do some more scruffy work, that's where you want to come a little bit lighter and lighter as you get down lower, right? So then I did a little bit You know, just random, guys. And then I did come up maybe a little bit higher on each side. You start at the top, slowly brick your way down, right? Try to go slow so they're not all separate. You want them to be all freckly, kind of layering. Okay, maybe that's a bit of a bigger tree or something over here. A little bit smoky is fine. Okay. So this is where you want to kind of do this kind of a little bit quick, right? Because you have a little bit wet here. We got our gray and soft white going on here. Now I want to just touch the smallest amount of black into my gray. Right? Gotta be careful with that black because it can so take over fast. Right? So if you think it's too dark, then just add a little bit more gray in there. Now we're going to use our scruffy to paint. So you're going to actually use your scruffy to go back and forth right on top of here now and kind of merge that right into the bottom of your scruffiness, just to soften out that bottom. Right, a little bit sideways. Keep adding more gray paint. Right, this is how I started getting that dreamy part of the landscape here. And then I still add a couple more little highlights later to it. So as you see these little streaks, don't worry about it. We're going to add those. It's just kind of introducing a little bit more color. Right, again, you want to try to have that a little bit lighter here, matching your scruffy, and then just to a smoky, charcoaly gray. It doesn't have to be too dark down here. Okay, so we're just using your scruffy now to paint. All right. And we can add some more white. And then this is where, if you want, you can add another layer of greenery off to the side here, just to say that there's something coming off to the side here. And like I said, I put that other tree right through this. And then I did put another little pouncy area a little bit lower. Again, I put one tree behind it. And then I put another tree in front of it. And that's it for your fuzziness for now. If you do have more scruffies, you know, it might take you some time to get all your leaves and everything else done. I hate to say don't put this in water, but these do work better when they're dry, right? So I forgot to tell you that when we started. But if you do have medium ones and smaller ones, you know, we can definitely, you know, use another brush, right? And get a smaller one for these other little trees, right? A medium or a small one. So you can put that in water when you're done with this process here. As you're starting to come together a little bit. Deceptively easy, guys, really. And this is your first version too. You try to keep up to me. You maybe got a little bit of hype going on because, oh, I gotta hurry, you know. So definitely, you know, play around on some practice paper. The canvas pads are nice. You know, they're a little cheaper. You can throw them away, and then when you're ready, then definitely, you know, you can always do this again, and I'm sure it'll turn out way better because you'll start to remember all the little things that you didn't like about it and do it a little bit better. But like I said, I could have been a little bit more perfect to have this gradient come out, but by the time we do all these trees, you probably won't even see those areas. And if there is areas that you really don't like, then try to make sure you do cover it, Put more leaves, put a branch out into that direction, so then that way you'll purposely cover that area. Right? Try to be strategic in a way where you're hiding stuff you don't like. Again, any of these maybe you don't like, well, this other tree is going to come right up on top of it, and you might hide some of these branches. Right? So if you need to shift your tree over just a little bit more, like they don't have to be exactly in the same spot as mine. I did spread this out nicely because I wanted my, in a way where I could hide my deer in between two trees like that. And sometimes, like the way with the shadows like this, it's like, is it coming or is it going? You don't know. I did put little highlights on the antlers, but you can have the highlights on the back of his head too. Right? He's going in that direction, the top of that sun. It looks like maybe this is like a morning sun. He just woke up through the night and he's, looking for some fresh grass to graze on somewhere. Right? So he's walking towards the sun. Or maybe he's walking away from the sun. You decide. So if you don't put too many details in there, then it gives that illusion. If you tell a story with your painting, it always makes sense. So you just have to give him a story. Where is he going? So you can clean your brush there if you had it in the water. And some of the bigger trees too, like some of them that are, like this one's a little bit further away. I found that if you try to make it black but not too black, right? Even if you have a little bit of gray in there too, like a smoky, dreamy. But if your backgrounds are dark, then you might have to go a little bit darker. Right, so we don't need to go too dark. And especially if you want to put a couple that look a little bit further back. And then as you get to these front ones, then it'll be all black. Okay, so just below, right, if you want to leave the same amount of space. Right, I've got at least 2 fingers over here. There's probably a good 3 fingers in between these trees. Right, so you want to keep space for your deer. Right, so this one does come all the way up to the top. I can always add it, but I just want to add that little starter. Right, and this one goes right off to the top. And then over right on the other side of my finger here, I'll start the other little tree. Right, and again, you can just put a wiggly line all the way up to the top. So this one starts just below the landscape line. This one here is going to actually come all the way from the bottom. Okay. So if you need just that little bit more slip, you can definitely go and add a little bit of floating medium in there. It's going to help slide your brush a little bit more. And then also what you're doing is you're trying to flatten your chisel out so you get a nice skinny edge on your brush. Okay, so if you want to make a little bit of a Y, make this trunk a little bit bigger. Right, you can put one branch over there so you've got your main Y. Right, so I put a little bit jaggedy at the bottom there, make it look like it has some sort of root. And then you can start off your Y, right? There's your third right there. Right, wiggle one out that way. Wiggle one out that way. You can cross over your trees. It won't really matter. Right. Cut those in half again. And I find after when you go up, then you come down and you try to make your branch a little bit fatter. Right, so it should be skinniest. And then you're coming down to make a little bit fatter at the Y. Right. So I always go up with my tree. Right, to start creating those branches. And then I go down the branch at the base to make it thicker on the stalk. So this one definitely is a little bit bigger than this one. Right, but hopefully you're not going to make it too big. So it's better to finish the top part And then slowly work your way back down. So that, see how this is too skinny compared to this one? You want to kind of come back down a little bit thicker. Right at the base of these joins. That makes sense? Just right here, a little bit thicker. And some can be very wispy and just disappear. They don't have to be, you know, perfect. Like I said, there's going to be so much greenery. Some of it can cross over. It wasn't even perfect there. It's okay, I can add more greenery. I just want to add a little bit more here because this is where you're going to see most of your tree is right at the base here, right? So this is the part you have to kind of make a little bit neat. Right, a little bit more floating medium, right? If it goes dry, all right, long branches, and then make it fatter. And this one here could be a little bit fatter. Okay, so this is a little fatter. So that it kind of flows, right? You want it to gradually get a little bit wider and wider. Okay, so that's those two looking good. I did have a little bit more of a branch coming into the sun here, a little bit strong. Because you want to have a little bit of an opening, like maybe there was a little spot where he's walking towards, right? So this one's already got a good lean in there. So now I want to create another tree, right? Again, they don't all have to go right off the edge. Right. So maybe I want to make this branch a little bit lower. Right, so they kind of come into each other. So you gotta tuck this guy here in between. Right, you can always add more scruffy on here too. But I usually just use my fingers to wipe it off. Okay, so I have to make this one a little bit thicker. Okay, about a third in there. Some can go right off the canvas. Bring that one up a little higher. So how you guys doing with your chisel work? Right, helping you? Don't be afraid to cross some over. So you have to determine the whole thickness all the way down. Right? You see how I did that? A little bit more floating medium. Keep adding that to your paint a little bit. Right, a little bit of white in there if you're running out of gray. Right, just to make it a little bit not so stark. Right, and then we have this one tree I pulled in right off the side, like a half a tree. Right, go up and then go down. And we don't have to put too many details. In this one. Right, so the way we're going to do our little leaves is going to help group the areas and sections. Right. This one goes right off the edge. Okay, so we have our 4. Right, you can always keep up to me and just put placement and then come back and then fill them up a little bit more. Right, you can always add more. Or fix and, go play with them again after. Stand back and look at it as a whole. See how you like it. How are you doing with your little ones? Do you need to change to a liner brush at this point to make some of your smaller branches? Right? You can definitely go and use a liner brush if you need it. Right, but my goal is to see if you can do this whole thing with your chisels. And like I said, if they're wispy and not neat at the end, don't worry. You're going to cover them anyways. Right? Oh yeah, yeah, looking good. You can go a little bit thicker if you want at the base. Depends on they're your trees. I mean, it depends on how far away they are. Because as you get closer and closer, you definitely want to have these ones maybe a little bit bigger than these ones. Not to say that this is a big old tree back there, and these are tiny little new ones. Right? It's your story, really. But when you have no perspective of how far away something is, usually if you make it a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, a little bit bigger, it looks more in your face. Right? So definitely, trees could be all different ages in this forest. So who's to say that this guy has not been around the longest out of all of them? Can you tell how much time I spend in the bush? Growing up, we did a lot of camping growing up in Timmins. And every summer, from as soon as I came out of school to September, we were up at my grandparents' camp. All right, so that's all we did all summer long was play in the bush and campfires and catching minnows and frogs and okay, so once you have your 4 done, then you can kind of make, try not to take too much space up here, right? You want this to kind of have a little bit of a clearing land where you're not covering up all these gray areas, right? So try to, again, hand worth of space, right? Try to see where the bulk of that tree is going to go and still give you a little bit of, your scruffy look, and you're not going to take away from all that, right? So we're going to start off very thin and just work one. Oops, I need more moisture in there. Right, so I suggest starting off thin and then just trying to, is that as high as I want to go? And you put your Y in there. Another little Y. Right, that's your main trees. Then as you got your setting, then you can come down and thicken. come down halfway and thicken it in this there. Right, so you don't want to make this tree too big. Okay, so I'm coming down on my chisel and just thicken a little bit of the Y. Little ones here, a little bit bigger one there. So this is the main one here. Again, cut it in 3. And also more muted in color too, right? Because these trees back there are probably just as dark as these ones, but because they're further away, they're under a brighter light, they actually look a little bit more muted, right? And further away.
Right. Yeah, and that's because your light source is in the back.
Yeah.
If your light source was from the front, then the front would be lighter and the things in the back would be darker.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. But yeah, and they don't have as much detail, things that are further away. You can't see the individual leaves, but if you're standing right in front of a tree, you can see the individual leaves.
So that's what I'm trying to teach, a little bit of this,
Yeah.
you know, in a very subtle way without being too, you know, exact.
Too technical.
Yeah, but still people will feel like they're there. They want anybody looking at your painting to feel like, oh, what's all back there? I wonder what's there. You know, like you give that kind of feel to the painting. Okay, some people like to watch the first time and then see how I change things, right? So here there was a little bit bigger of a tree here, right? And if I felt like I didn't do enough back there of interest, you know, I can definitely kind of try and get a little bit of a wash going on here and try to get a little bit more of a bigger tree if this is your focal point and you want to add more. But again, really washy back here. Maybe some are a little bit closer than others, but you know, this should really be translucent. And I made a little bit of a yucky branch there. Okay, so you can always come in and erase stuff too if you feel like you made something too big. And see, these ones are really translucent compared to these ones. Just a little bit more floating medium, guys. If you haven't done this yet, don't be afraid to make it really translucent. I can even pull some of that paint off. Right. Here I did make a little bit more straighter stuff. I got a little crazier and fancier. That's okay. Right, you can put some faux leaves back here, and some of it was just really jaggedy and really loose. Like, you know, it was not perfect at all. And if there's any little areas that, you know, maybe they need more grass strokes or something, you know, you can always kind of break something up or add to it still. Wipe it off so it almost disappears. Okay. So this is where we needed to add just a little bit more depth into this area here. And these are beginner students. They've never even heard of one stroke before. You know, they definitely you know, need a little introduction to it. So slowly getting them to double load their scruffy brush. And then here is where I got them to put a little bit of white and whatever they had left in their brush. Right, they're doing all their trees, and then I went over and said, okay, go over and grab some white, right, on the side of your brush, and then I was just trying to like flip-flopping some dark with just to add a little bit of shading here. And then they just went and put their brushes sideways, I told them, to kind of give yourself some, like there's a little bit of a path. And you're just kind of going back and forth with whatever's on your white and just kind of doing a really loose little, if it doesn't show, then maybe you have to add just a little bit more white. But it should be just kind of, really just like jaggedy and smeared looking and not perfect. Yes, it's a little bit darker back here. Right, you can always touch up anything that way. And like I said, when you're doing a little tree, if you wanted to hide the base of this tree a little bit more, you can always add a little bit more then. Does that look super? Was that super easy? I'm not sure how I could have made this any easier, really, for a beginner. Right. Yeah, I just wanted to add another one there for some reason. So hopefully you have a lot of different colors of trees too. Like some of them are going to be so disappeared. Some of them might be a little stronger. Some of them are going to slowly get darker and then bigger as you come up to the front. Right. So this is where I probably would think is a good idea to pop in your pattern if it's dry. And you can figure out what little critter you want to put in there. Hopefully everybody's played with graphite paper before. I'm just going to blow dry this a little bit just so it doesn't stick. So you guys gonna come and join me for the wagon wheel? My painting I had to do to work towards my master's certification. I'm so excited. And I have another big huge one, like my lilies here. The size of my lilies that I'm doing too, that I can't show you guys yet. But one just had to be a painting, and then one had to be a painting and make it a class. So the requirements were that I had to have minimum 15 people to sign up, and $45 minimum was the charge that I had to do for that one. But I'm making it like a 2-day class, so it didn't matter what the requirements. I could have made a 1-day class for $45, but definitely, I think if we take our time, we can stop and do a little bit of practice on some paper, make sure that you guys get the gist of the color combinations I'm playing with and stuff like that. Definitely take our time over 2 days. The plan is definitely to get at least all the background done, the wheel started, and all my wood chips done. And then day 2, we'll come back and do all the flowers. Okay, so at the end of day 1, we'll do a bunch of little pre-practice on there. If you guys want to join us for this, then hopefully you guys will feel more comfortable to get your flowers all in there a lot quicker. Okay, so that's the plan for that. If you guys, I know some of you are signed up, some of you might not be yet. That would be wonderful. You want to join us for that? Alright, so this is nice and dry for me. Like I said, I do like this guy. If you wanted to put one lower, like he's walking away or something like that, or, peek them behind a tree, or, you know, whatever you want. It's really up to you. I do like this guy here. He did fit nice and skinny, right? So what you can do too, is a little trick to find placement on these guys, is fold it. And I'm folding it behind so I can see the edge of my deer. And then fold it again so you can keep it out of the way. I'm just trying to think of a, you know, easy way for you guys to find where you want to put them. Am I crazy or what? I know, I come up with some weird ways of doing things sometimes. Okay, but this is on a photocopier, so you can't really see, right? So you kind of gotta visualize where do you want him, right? And I did want his feet. You can always add more black, right? But I did want his feet to kind of sit just above where the shadow was. Okay. And once you figure out where you want them, I'm going to put a tiny bit of tape to hold them in place. And then graphite paper always comes a little bit two colors, right? So you always usually use the darker side on down. Okay, and then you can just use a pen to get your markers where all his antlers are. Where his little ears are. And try to stay right on these lines here. When you're painting and you want to make it a little bit tiny bit bigger, that's fine. But try to just make sure that you're right on these lines to try to make it as small as possible here. His little legs. Okay, and then always take a peek to see how you can see them before you take your paper off. And then to get into these details a little bit, you know, this is kind of small. Like you can use your little 2 or your 6 or #1 liner brush and just kind of color them in, right? Make his ears a little bit. This is probably the important part, is ears, right? Make sure that they're nice shape. Top of his head is round, basically. Practice with this here. See how you do with your lines, right? You're gonna color this in, but I want you to practice with your lines. See how you feel here, and then you'll be able to get his little antlers nice and thin. Right? So that's why I was saying to practice here first. So we're just filling it in with black for now. And if your black is too thick to try to get really thin lines, you can add just a little bit of water into your black, or wet your brush with some water every once in a while. Right, and then again, you wanted this to be a shadow, so you can just kind of add a little bit of black to the bottom of a little bit of floating medium, so it smears it on the canvas there a little bit. Right, just to kind of make it look like the body of the shadow of his. Right, add a little bit of white in there too. Don't make it too dark. Right. Just fill them in. See, to me, it looks like he's going up towards the sun for me right now. Maybe because I put his bottom legs a little bit lower here. I don't know, they're about the same. I don't know. It's all about perspective, I guess. What do you think? Is he coming or going? Alright, so then again, push a little bit to get some thin lines. Even the horns of a deer is all in like little Ys. You notice that? And they're all about a third in, 2/3 or 1/3. I think the first time I used my stencil, you can see a bit of the bleeding around the stencil that I did quick. I'm getting a thinner line with doing it by hand. And then just enough to grab a little bit of white on your black, right? Just to kind of give, you got black in your brush, but I'm just coming over to pick up just the smallest amount of dirty white just to kind of add some ticks. Now this one, like I said, this one was bigger, so I was able to have more room to put highlights. You can just put a couple little shines like around his body or something. You know, too. I don't want it too light. I just want a smear of glow somewhere. Right? Maybe just to touch a little bit of his ears. Just to say that you got a little bit of a dirty black. Right? It's not pure black. Some bigger ears. Okay, if you want to put a little squirrel in there, or maybe put a squirrel up in the tree, or you know, maybe there's a bear over there. But this is a little bit big. I would definitely maybe put him down a little bit lower in front of a tree or something. Okay, but I definitely want to give you my original idea was the deer. How'd you guys make out with your deer? You can always pop him in later too. It doesn't matter if he's now or later, but I just know that this stayed wet a long time and a little bit longer than, you know, so you want to be able to kind of do all this last scruffy mark part here last. So that way we can just leave it and let it dry at the end. So, what do you think, guys? Was this super easy? Tell me, did you enjoy that? But I love when paintings look harder than they really are. And you see how that circle glow of background is starting to take place now? Like the little vortex place that you're kind of sending people to? Right? Super easy with the sponge, just keep going around in circles. So yeah, basically we just have to play around with our Q-tips. Alright. And then what I did with those, I need a little bit more gray. Okay, so again, just like we did the translucent gray tones back here, right? I wanted to add a little bit of a faux kind of freckling kind of look back there. So the first thing you gotta do is actually wet your Q-tips in some floating medium. Okay, dab off a little bit excess just in case it's too globby. Then I went to go pick up a little bit of my grays. Right, maybe you can't see too good. There we go. Right, test it on here. You see how it's a little bit translucent? And so way in the beyonders here, we want to just add a few freckles. And you want to kind of go on top of each other a little bit. Right, some of our other pouncing might hide this. Right, just to get that.
Just now I had an aha moment. I'm like, so that's why they're Q-tips and rubber band. Awesome.
Yes, Q-tips make fun dotting tools. And you can make a lot of little textures with them. Yeah, I was telling you guys earlier. You want it to be a little bit translucent, like I said, just to get you started over here. Just very subtle little groupings. Right? Little cloud, little clusters of little trees, right? Back here. And when you start to run out of paint, that's even more perfect, right? Because you want this just to be very subtle back here. And then as we got that done, I also wanted to try to establish some of the leaves or some of the trees to be further away by being darker grays. And then this one has got more white in it, so it shows that it looks like it's even closer, right? And then this guy here, again, he's even closer again. So this one here has got to be the darkest one. So we have to add a little bit of white, a little bit of gray, and go back into that medium, guys, too. You want a little bit of moisture in there. Right, so some of your Q-tips are going to have gray colors on it. Some will have a muted color. Some will have a little bit more bright colors. Right, so you can tip back and kind of just hit the back ones, or you can tip forward and hit just the front ones, right? So you can kind of play around. Super quick and easy and fast, right? So again, I'm just kind of doing this back tree here. Right, a little bit darker. And we want a little bit more coverage on those branches. So every once in a while you do got to pick up a little bit more thicker paint so that we can kind of disguise the tip of those branches a little tiny bit. Right, so we don't want it too translucent now that we're starting to build these guys up. Right, so you get a little bit heavy, that's okay. Just dab a couple white ones on top of it. Alright, so I'm going to bring some of this as if it's all the way off the top of the tree here. There's more up here that we can't see. Right? Pretend. Alright, so I just want to kind of have a peek of these branches. Right, pick up white, pick up gray, work it in a little bit. Right, so these are going to be a lot brighter, you know, if they're coming up closer. Okay, so that's one tree. Now we're going to come over to this one, so we can go add just a little bit more white, right? And you layer over. Right? I don't want it to be too dotty, so that's why you have to kind of go over it a few times on each area. And in little groups. Right? Hopefully not too white. Right? Like each branch has its own little group of a little bit of greenery going on, but it's not green, but it's. So the only thing I have to say, you maybe have to just keep an eye on your Q-tips, right? Make sure you've got a comfortable hold on them. Slip it on you. Maybe you have to wrap another twist of your elastic around it to hold it a little bit tighter. Okay, Right, so these are a little bit darker. Right. And then now we can go back over to this one here on the side. And really there's 2 trees here, so it's just the branches and everything is going to help you determine. Right, so just try to have a little bit of a break. I almost went a little bit too close there. Like, whoa, don't go too close. Right, so it looks like a different tree. And if you are layering one tree over the other, then we're going to try and make this one a little bit brighter. You see how I just added a lot more white on there to set this a little bit closer. There's another grouping of leaves there, another little grouping of, so you're going to still see some of those branches and areas in between. Okay, so maybe there's some off beyond there. Got some of our branches going off here. Over here. Maybe a little bit lower. It's good to have some translucent areas and some a little bit heavier areas, especially when you're trying to really hide a branch more. Right, so here kind of you don't know, is this there or there? So I want to, these are the tree from back here, so I want to kind of brighten up the edge of this one. Right, so we can bring this one out a little bit more. Just kind of dabby. I always brighten some things up. Or add darker. If you think this is too light, add a few more darker ones to set it back further again. Right. Maybe there's another tree that's all the way over here. You don't know, right? Only the person that took a picture of this landscape knows. That's the illusion of wonder that you can get from some of the paintings, right? Maybe a little bit more here. Right. But I am getting awfully close to this guy here. Okay, so this is where I want to change to my medium or small scruffy. If you guys got the 10-piece value set, most likely you got the large and the small, so I'll show you guys with the small. All right, but I wanted it to be a little bit bigger poofs. Right, so you want a little bit of gray, a little bit of white. And we're gonna make a little bit of a little poofy areas. Okay, so we definitely need a little bit more white. But I want some dark behind it, so sometimes it's good to kind of establish your little areas with something a little bit darker, right? If you only have a little one. Right, okay, yeah, that's looking good. I like that. We can't see it very good. And then you can lightly just kind of go over it again with some white. Right, so it'll be wet on wet. A little bit heavier paint too if you want. It can be a little bit more textured looking. Got a little bit more highlights there, a little bit more there. Okay, so this way this tree looks definitely different. Hopefully these guys are a little bit darker, right? Right, maybe around it. Always play with these. So that's why I wanted to make sure this was a little bit dark over here, so when I pounce this tree in front of it, it looks like it's a totally different kind of brush stroke, right? So it looks like a totally different tree. Knock some of this off. Some of it was a little bit more dry brush, kind of just to soften, especially when you can see down here in the dark areas here, just to make it a little bit more freckly. I probably did use a medium one on here. Right, but you definitely want to have some dark in there so that your light will stand up on top of it. Right, and then you can make these little clusters of branchy trees. That's about it, guys. That's right. Again, if your little bush is not covering the base of your tree, you can always add more. Right, and some darker tones so that your scruffy will come up with different colors. Right, see the dark in there? So same way as here, I'm running out of gray, that's why. Right, so you want a little bit of darker underneath your poofies. A little bit of white, a little bit of black. Right, see here your little sections. Right, and I'm gonna go and grab some fresh white. Try to play with you guys as if you've never tried a scruffy in your life before, right? So I was trying to make it super, super easy for the kids. And so a little bit more dark, so you can layer on it. Have those darker areas, lighter areas. What do you think? Does that look a little bit better? You can always let this dry, add more white. Because it was just too white. So I had to get the dirty back in there again. And then now I can go in and freckle a little bit more. Right, just tipping over using just the one side of my scruffy brush to highlight just, you know, maybe a little bit more separation areas. Right, so that looks like a little bit different areas of your tree. Look a little bit more separated now. Pop a little bit of dark so you can freckle a little bit more light on top of it or below it. I did go a little heavier on this one than I did that one. You got choices. So try not to go over it too much. And then you can use your liner brush to write your name. Or your little detailer. Put your little signature if you like. There. So a little bit lighter version. Very, very few. I didn't go too crazy. And here I went a little heavier. So, hey, it's all good, right? Every forest is going to look a little bit different, I'm sure. Depending on where you put your trees. I made these trees a lot bigger than these ones too. Perfect!
Yeah, skinny legs is...
Well, yeah, it could be a youngling, right? You know. He's not a big buck yet. So what do you think, guys? Was that super easy? Right? Deceiving, right? It was deceiving. I'm sure you guys all thought that, my God, I don't think I can do that.
Yeah.
And you see, look at the difference between this one and this one. Every time I do it, my trees are going to look a different size, a different shape. It don't matter, right? So I think where I see you got a lot of blotchiness is maybe from your Q-tips.
Yeah, I think, my Q-tips. What, I'm not supposed to pounce the Q-tips?
Yeah. You can pounce them just the same way as you do your scruffy brush. So what I think you might have to do is just go in with some darker color.
Okay.
And then go back over with your light again very lightly so that you're not over stirring it.
Well, I thought I would just paint over it white and start over.
Oh no, I think you can, sometimes just adding dark will bring out the light again. Right? You see how I played around with this tree? It definitely went heavier than this one, but I wasn't seeing a separation of my little limbs. So I had to go in and add more dark. So then I could freckle on top of it the white. So you don't want to go right on top of each other.
And that's my problem too, is like on your trees and the line down, I don't know if you can see where I'm pointing. And here I can't seem to get, my white is gray, even though I use a fresh brush. I can't get that light, bright white definition.
Oh, sometimes you might have to go back when it's dry to freckle a little bit of fresh white.
I blow dried it and then tried it, and it still just didn't come in.
Oh, maybe because it's too light. You're not seeing enough separation. Right? So you have to kind of make two colors on your brush so that when you're pushing down, you see both those colors with your scruffy brush. So you're creating these little balls of trees, right? And you're maybe over mixing it. So you've got too much light.
Okay.
And then no matter how much light you got, you can't keep adding more white. You have to get the dark back in there a little bit more, right? When you got that dark in there, then you can go back and add some white, and then you see very lightly.
Okay.
So maybe you're going too heavy or you're going too many times, and then every time, if you go too many times, look what happens. You end up making a smoky, muted color.
Yeah, I think I'm going too many times.
Yeah. So what you have to do to fix these now is just go in and add a little bit more dark. Then you can go in and add a little bit more white. And don't go on top of each other so much. You're going to work your way down and give little spaces so that you're still seeing the depth behind it as you're working down.
Okay. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem. That's what I'm here for, guys. Any way you're struggling, you let me know through these projects. That's why I love having you here Zoom with me so that I can see what you're doing and then maybe stop and back up and show you a little bit more to you know exactly where you're having problems, because we all got different times under our belt, right, of playing with these. And scruffy is a little bit different sometimes. It's deceiving. Again, it looks easy, but it can be overworked. Right? If you keep going over it, and then there's different degrees of pouncing. So you can pounce really, really heavy, medium pounce, freckle. Right? So it's starting to learn how to get the coverage in there good, but then when you want to go and highlight again, now we got to learn how to freckle on top of that.
Okay.
Right? So it's a little bit lighter touch. Yeah, not a problem at all. Like I said, this is totally beginner, and not just because it's a beginner totally doesn't mean that you're not going to struggle with it in any ways. But definitely, it's a good start to get you guys into double loading your brush. Starting to learn, the effect that what you can do with a scruffy brush is so much fun. Like, I do love playing with scruffy brushes because it just gives you such a fast look, right? And get in and get out and get all those shapes and highlights all done so quick. And but everything has its challenges when you've never done it before, right? So you got to get that dark in there, and then you can freckle the light.
And you tip your brush up a little?
Yeah, definitely. If I feel like I need more dark, I can tip back. If I need more light, I can always tip forward.
Okay.
Right? So if you're in a really dark area and you just want a couple little freckles, right, you can tip forward to add a little bit more white. But if you're doing it all for the first time, you've got a clean slate, right? It's working yourself down and then giving yourself enough space so you're leaving those shadows. Right? If you wanted to try this again in another round, right? So you're kind of working your way slowly and see the spaces. So you're leaving the dark behind. And then you can turn your scruffy around sideways, maybe around some of these trees, or maybe a little bit more off of the side.
Okay.
Right?
That helped a lot.
Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Yeah, don't ever hesitate to ask if you have any questions at all. Maybe I could have started with showing you guys this, but I was hoping that you guys were going to see on here. But there's just this one tree that I did that with. But if you don't like the Q-tips, definitely go back with your scruffy. You can change this all to a scruffy. But you can do the same trick with your Q-tips.
Did I push them too hard on my Q-tips? Because my things are big.
I think you were over blending. I think you just went over it too many times. Seeing the same thing over here, you got to get the dark in there. And then just lightly freckle with your white. If you have too much paint on there. You see I'm getting that freckling look?
So my Q-tips fell apart.
So if you go over this way too many times.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah. It's going to be the same thing as your scruffy. So you just got to kind of, again, you can tip back at some dark and then just highlight a little bit with your, just some areas. So you're leaving dark and then you can put light behind it. Right? You always need those little separation areas where it transitions from the other colors. And yeah, definitely try not to overwork it. And then again, this is the same thing. You can push really hard, or you can just lightly kind of just graze it to get that. And it depends on how much paint you have in here too. Sometimes you have maybe too much paint. Right? If you have too much paint, it might go too globby. As you're working it, you can see that you can get a little bit more of a translucent color. Right, so try on some piece of paper to see how your load is doing. If you want to test it first, and then when you feel comfortable, then you can come in and play. Does anybody else have any other questions for me? No? Can't wait to see yours. Please send them to me if you want any more help with them or critiques or anything I can help with, questions. You guys that are getting the recording that didn't make the live, definitely send me pictures of your work. Share them in our group. We got a community group and we have our VIP group now. So it's up to you where you want to share them. I'd love you to even show them off in Donna's group and say, thanks, Mandy, for the class. This is what we did. That would be wonderful.
Mandy, which page do you want us to put these on?
Anywhere you like, even on your own profile. Tag me. I always like to see them.
Okay. Can you tell us what size the oversized class is going to be when you do it?
16 by 20.
Oh, that it'll be. Oh, okay.
The wagon wheel?
No, the oversized.
Oh, you know about that one? That's actually a 30 by 48. It's huge.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Okay. I wondered. So I think I might have a canvas already.
Yeah, it's like my big lily one here.
Yeah, it's not going to be that one though, is it?
No.
Yeah, because I painted that one already. With Donna, so.
Yes, no, this is my original. Okay, since you guys want to see it.
Oh, how cool.
Yeah, this is going to be like a 5-day class, guys. It's not done yet.
And what did you say that was? What size is that?
30 by 48.
30 by 48.
Yeah.
I think Michael's is having a sale.
Oh yeah, for sure. Grab them when they're on sale.
I'm not sure. But I think so.
It's huge. Yeah, it's not done yet.
30.
And then Donna wanted me to put more greenery in there, so I went and put another urn in there. Remember, if you guys saw on her OSA YouTube membership, she just did half of one with some roses in there. So she talked me into putting some roses in there, but the original picture that I'm copying, it definitely doesn't have that kind of topiary in it. It's just more like old metal can and the old brass watering cans and ceramic ones. And I'm not sure.
I'm sorry.
I'm not sure if you can see. I even threw crackle in there.
That's going to be cool.
And there's paste in there.
Oh, I've never done that.
Oh yeah, there's lots of great stuff in here. Let me get closer. I'm
And
so
do we
excited.
is it a have to put the paste in it?
Not necessarily, but you can see how the ridged edges, like you know how a stucco wall will start to peel off the brick? Right? So I wanted this to kind of look a little bit raised, like it looked like a stucco wall against the brick. So I just put a thicker edge to them right here. And then some cracks in the wall too. I gotta put some gray paint in there still to emphasize the cracks. Like I said, it's not done yet. There's still some more elements I need to put on here, and I definitely need to finish that one and put some roses in it. But my bricks are pretty much all done, and my background here is all done. And then this is gonna be a little bit of a sign there. Oops, I don't know where I am anymore. This thing is so huge. So it's like a little sign there. So, yeah. So you guys got a sneak peek on it there.
That's going to be cool to do.
Yeah, any modeling paste. It's just to thicken your paint a little bit more.
I was thinking you did something else back last year or year before, and you did something that we did a texture to.
Yeah, there's a couple different companies that make modeling pastes. So,
I can't remember what we used when you did. Maybe Dorothy remembers.
The 3D flower I did a long time ago with the denim.
That flower with the metallic stuff on it.
No, that was just recently. The one I did a while ago was probably the 3D denim flower. It's on YouTube. And then, the teddy bear love. That's what it was.
It was what?
Teddy bear love.
I don't know. I can't remember.
We put a little texture in that background too with stencils.
Really wanted to thank you for the class today.
Oh, no problem. I'm glad to.
I'll be looking for the video so I can paint along.
All right. Can't wait to see yours, guys. Happy creating.